Bitcoin is ripping through $72,000 today, and Donald Trump might have revealed why. We know America allegedly holds about 329,000 coins in their strategic Bitcoin reserve, but judging by what Donald Trump said yesterday in this clip, America sounds like they're actually entertaining the idea of buying way more Bitcoin for those strategic Bitcoin reserves. Let's watch the clip, and we will chat about it.
I established the United States Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, making Bitcoin a permanent asset of the United States Treasury, which has turned out incredibly well. That's exactly what it's done. It's been amazing. Under the crooked Joe Biden administration, the spirit of innovation that built America was under serious attack like never before, and nowhere was that more true than crypto and other new financial technologies, where we were going to be taken to the cleaners by China and other countries. The radical left tried to crush these developments with crippling regulations, brutal restrictions, weaponization. They used weaponization, political weaponization, and constant targeting that drove innovation overseas, and they wanted to drive it out. We terminated the so-called Operation Choke Point 2.0, which is what the name of their operation was, weaponization. And we ended the war on crypto once and for all, and it's been booming. It's been doing big, and nobody's been able to break in. China would like to break in. They're still trying, but they have been able to. I signed a historic executive order banning any attempt to create a central bank digital currency. We launched Project Crypto to modernize rules so that our financial markets can move into blockchain technology.
Does the administration have any plans to accumulate sizable amounts of Bitcoin or other crypto?
Well, it's been talked about. I think I'd probably rely on Paul and the whole group for that. He'll make a decision. You guys will make a decision, and you'll let me know. But certainly it's been talked about. It's taken a lot of pressure off the dollar. It's been very, very good for the dollar. And I think if you came in with recommendations, two of you, if you came in with some recommendations, I would certainly listen. It seems to be a pretty big subject.
I gotta back down here. Nico's here, and of course, our bro Adam O'Brien from Bitcoin Well.
Oh, look, the air horn already.
We got the air horns.
We're getting air horns.
We got the air horns. Look,
did you guys see Brian Armstrong just standing there like Mark Zuckerberg style on the right?
Yeah. Did you catch his off topic? We'll talk about the clip that Donald Trump. But did you guys catch his speech about at the press conference? There was a funny moment where Brian Armstrong was, I forget what he said, but he's like, yeah, we have like really, I think the Clarity Act's going to pass, and there's really strong support. And Trump's like, no, there's bipartisan support for it. And he's like, yes. It's true. There's bipartisan support for it. Anyways, so guys, if you aren't familiar, we were talking about this yesterday. There was a closed door meeting at the White House yesterday with quote unquote crypto execs. And to be clear, like we were just talking about, it was Brian Armstrong, Brad Garlinghouse from Ripple, and then the Gemini twins. And then there was a couple of the prediction market CEOs there. Oh, Kraken was there.
And I think the guy from Robinhood as well. But
I guess not prediction markets.
It was so funny because when Trump was doing the speech, you can literally tell the people that were surrounding him were trying so hard not to laugh. Like the Winklevi, you could do a close up on him. The Winklevi guy was like, and then the guy next to him was like literally like about to fucking crack up laughing, bro. Trump's a natural comedian. I gotta give him credit for that. But he hasn't kept one campaign promise that we
the only one that matters
as Bitcoiners. And that's the number hasn't gone up during his administration. So he should do more of these press conferences, bro, because it pumped the price.
No,
from the
that wasn't.
Of hell.
It wasn't because of the.
It pumped the price. 10K.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't.
It totally did.
No, it didn't.
It
didn't. The price did not pump because of the crypto summit thing. It pumped because of what Scott Bessent said about the treasury markets.
I disagree.
Okay, well, you're wrong. Anyway, all right, enough tangent. Let's throw it over to Adam real quick. Adam, we all know that you are a proud member of the Canadian Moose Shekel Nation up north. So, what's your view watching this? And then we'll get Nico's view and my view when we watch these clips from Donald Trump.
Yeah, man, it's becoming more and more apparent to me that Canada is just not going to last. Like you've never once heard the Canadian administration talk about Bitcoin in a positive light. It's just very clear. We are not printing money into oblivion and buying Bitcoin. We're printing money into oblivion and lighting it on fire, it seems like. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm happy for you guys. I'm happy that I hold my bags in Bitcoin and not in moose shekels. And, all's well that ends well. Canada is likely going to be a, blown nation here in the next decade. And I think, honestly, it's by design. Canada looks like a testing ground to see how much we can get away with. It's like people in the US would be good to, if you're younger than like 30, you should be watching what's happening in Canada because you're going to watch this same playbook play out in the USA because it's going to work. The globalists are winning in Canada. And you should watch what goes on so you can be aware of the tricks they're playing up here so you don't get them played on you in like 15 years.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, wait, isn't your new prime minister, isn't he like a Davos Weef banker or something like that?
He's literally a British central banker.
Yeah, exactly.
Import from the WEF. Like he's he's actually just the demons. Like it's crazy. And he was the way he got in was unelected. Canada is so offside and just outrageous right now. He was sitting prime minister unelected. He had to move to Canada from England in order to take his chair. That's like how insane this is. And then right now he's actively stealing from Canadians. He is lining his pockets. Like, how most politicians get rich after they leave, like they, write their book and go on their tour and like take all their backdoor paychecks after office. He's taking them while he's in office. He just doesn't care. He hates Canadians. He is just straight up like mocking us at this point.
Yeah, well, it kind of sounds like our president. So, I mean, not much difference.
You're not wrong. Maybe that's just the politician playbook.
The funny thing about Trump is that like it's just so blatant. He doesn't care, which I appreciate, right? Like the Trump coin, like right before he was inaugurated, him charging $100,000 to get early access
and didn't say anything about the hyperliquid post. So like if you paid that, you don't even get the hyperliquid pump.
Then him literally counter trading the US public, like fat fingering on Truth Social. Oh, sanctions. And then like hinting to everybody, well, tomorrow's going to be a big day in the stock market. Then he just fat fingers on Truth Social. Actually, I've changed my mind about the sanctions and the market recovers like 50%. And then we finally got the financial disclosures this year where he literally made an absolute fortune. I think it was like last year or something like that, while the rest of the market was like bleeding. So like he was just counter trading everybody essentially. I can't say that officially, but that's what it looks like from my perspective.
Dude, the numbers are official. Those are his disclosures. Like, yeah.
Isn't he also selling his tweets early? Like he's going to paywall his
$100,000 and you get early access to Truth Social posts.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Let's bring it back to this clip here, Nico. You as the reigning magatard on the show, how do you feel watching this clip? Am I stretching by saying it was, actually before you go, what I found interesting in that clip where he's like at the very end where he's basically talking about, we're looking into ways to buy more Bitcoin. Okay. He mentioned he's talking about Paul Atkins, the SEC chair.
That's not what's happening. So,
and Mike Selig.
Okay. So what's happening is, the Clarity Act doesn't look like it's going to pass, right? The midterms are coming up. So essentially he's going up there, and Brian Armstrong kind of said this in the speech, right? All of this was coordinated, and he's going up there and he's reminding the Bitcoin / I hate using this word, but it's the truth, Bitcoin / crypto voters that voted for him and his administration. And he's essentially reminding them why they voted for him, right? I ended operation, didn't even say it right, 2.0. He said 2.0, whatever. So he was just going there, and he knows, like, if you look at the probability odds, like the Republicans are going to get shellacked during the midterms. So he's just going there and saying, hey guys, look, I did everything I could, and I promised you guys that I would, during my first 2 years in office. That's essentially the purpose of that, of that press conference, right? And then he's going, obviously getting all the industry, players in his eyes, and he's going there and he's basically saying, look, like, this is all the awesome things that have happened. So it's, again, the Clarity Act doesn't look like it's going to pass. That, as Bitcoiners, that's the one that we really care about, because that one has the protections for self-custody, the protection for open source developers. Those are the really two things that we really care about, the Clarity Act. And then obviously, if you run a Bitcoin business in the United States, obviously this is favorable to you as well, the Clarity Act specifically. But he's just going there and he's trying to front run it because it doesn't look like it's going to pass. I know that they're going to try to force a vote in mid-September, if my memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, 15.
Last time I checked. But the point of that is just to show the American public which senator voted against it and which senator voted for it. But the probability it's going to pass is very low. So it's just kind of like a political maneuvering more than anything. That's really what I saw about this press conference. But obviously, I mean, I know, Opti, you're saying it was because of Besant, but again, if you're looking at if you're looking at that, and markets are forward looking, if you're looking at that and you see the president of the United States saying, hey, there's a non-zero chance we buy Bitcoin, obviously, what are you going to do? Right? What are markets going to do when they're going to react to that news? Right? They're going to be like, oh my God, even if the probability is small, there's potential that the U.S. government buys Bitcoin. Now, they are running out of time, because what's going to happen during the midterms is Trump will get impeached again, 100%.
Well, if they lose, we got to play both playbooks here.
He will get impeached again. That doesn't mean he's going to be taken out of office, right? But they're going to go through the whole thing. They're going to launch investigations. They're going to say, oh, your administration was all corrupt. And all of what that's doing is they're really lining up to 2028, right? 2028, they want to get a Democrat president in, but they're going through the whole political motions. But that's essentially what's happening, right? Yesterday was a fanfare for all the Trump voters that voted for him specifically because of his stance on the Bitcoin industry. And he just wanted to remind everybody how awesome it's been for them. Now, as Bitcoiners, right, what do we really fundamentally care about with Trump's specific promise at the Bitcoin conference 2024? Adam, you joined us on the news desk. That was awesome. What we really care about is, like, dude, pump my bags. Like, I know you've been pumping your bags, but, like, Orange Man, make Orange Coin go up. That's really what people care about, like, honestly, at the end of the day. And that press conference yesterday was successful in that fact, I believe. So I tweeted this out yesterday. I'm like, I hope he does these every day, because the price would just go to 150K overnight, right? If he just kept saying, like, the US might buy Bitcoin, like, I'm not so sure. If he kept saying that every day, I think it would be bullish for the price. But that was my own perception of the press conference yesterday. It was just saying, hey, you voted for me. I did you good. Vote for me again on the midterms so we don't get as shellacked.
Nico, are you feeling good about being a single issue voter right now?
Absolutely. I'm gonna vote Republican again during the midterm. Sophie wanted to vote in the Republican primaries, bro. Like, it was, it was crazy.
For the Florida governor. That one was based.
Yeah.
I'm with him.
You cannot be named, but
no, he's chill. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's normal. Ish. Anyways, what? Dang, I got sidetracked. What was I gonna say? I don't know. I'm blanking. I'm having too much fun today. This is like the boys just hanging out today. Hold on, it'll come back to me.
Those are the best shows, though. But yeah, like, going back to it. Also, we didn't play you guys these clips either. All the things that all these heavyweights, and they're not the Gemini twins, they're the Winkle vibe, but
whatever, dude. That's their company, Gemini twins.
That works too. But all the things that they were saying were overwhelmingly positive.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I will grant you one thing. I think yesterday the price pumped because of what Scott Bessent said about, treasury buybacks. And actually this morning he said, oh yeah, we were going to, so he announced yesterday they're going to double the long-term treasury buybacks from 2 billion to 4 billion. This morning it comes out and he's like, yeah, we're actually going to probably go more than 4 billion. So it's even bigger. And I think that was the initial catalyst to make the price pump. Obviously, later in the day, we did get the crypto White House, summit. And I think that kind of to what you're saying, that's probably why the price went up to 72 today is, what you just laid out. So I don't think you're necessarily wrong here. I just think it's an order of operations. I think that's why we got to 72 today.
Do you think it's a coincidence that Scott Bessent made that same announcement on the same day of the of the Bitcoin crypto conference?
What do you always say? There's no
conspiracy.
Yeah,
there's no coincidences.
Exactly.
Of course, dude. Like I'm telling you, this was literally fanfare for all the, as you call them, magatards who voted for Trump specifically because of his positions on the Bitcoin/crypto industry. That's what happened. And he literally telling people, like, if you don't vote for me during the midterms, Operation Choke Point 3.0 is going to come back. That's what he's doing indirectly. That was the whole purpose of the press conference yesterday. There's absolutely no other reason to have that. I mean, unless you have, some other idea. And then, of course, they're trying to put all their weight behind the Clarity Act, which, again, I just don't think it's going to pass at this point.
Yeah, me either. I'm convinced. How about you, Adam? What's your view on the Clarity Act?
Guys, I'm not going to lie. I really don't think it matters. I think the Clarity Act, the problem that I have with our current political systems is that if the Clarity Act passes today, the new administration can just change it or delete it later. Trump signed the executive order to make CBDCs illegal. The next guy can just sign an executive order to make them unillegal. In Canada, like you used to have the ability to have a bank account and today you don't. It's like the rules are just subject to change. I think it's all a charade. I think the Clarity Act, as someone who's like operating a business in the US, a Bitcoin business in the US, obviously we want pro Bitcoin rules. And so by that perspective, I would be, obviously I think it's going to be an important piece of the puzzle, but on the long term, I don't know. I think Bitcoin's in such an interesting state right now where we've got the general population really unsure how to treat Bitcoin. Nobody knows, like Bitcoiners who are in the trenches had the craziest August. Like August, we were joking before the show, but so my wife and I had a baby on the same weekend as the cold card. Let's go. As the cold card debacle going on. And then we move into like BIP 110, kind of anticlimactic. But like lots of build up and lead up. I'm seeing posts. This guy was like talking to this guy at a wedding, saw this other guy who was like a big Bitcoiner, excited to meet him or whatever, asked him about BIP 110. He's like, what's that? Like Bitcoiners are just thrust in this echo chamber compared to the kind of the macro, myself included. And so maybe it matters more than I think, but in the same way that we had bull runs during Operation Choke Point 2.0, I think we can have bull runs despite the Clarity Act. And I don't know how related they are. But I'm pro Bitcoin rules by the government. But at the end of the day, like, let's get our heads out of the sand and let's build some freedom.
Well, absolutely. And I just want to add to what Adam was saying, right? Like if Bitcoin could be regulated, it would defeat the entire purpose of Bitcoin. And we were actually talking about it earlier on the week, Opti, when we were covering the China news and how China's like kind of going from this direction to this direction. Like, I think governments are going through this process of like digestion, right? Where they realize, hey, we can't necessarily make this thing go away. Let's see how we can benefit from number go up without allowing the freedom go up aspect of it. And they're trying to separate the two without realizing that both of them are inextricably linked. You can't separate the two. But governments are trying anyhow, right? And I think Trump logically, right? He's going in there. He's like, okay, this thing isn't going to go away. Like, let's make sure it's here in the US. Let's put some guardrails, around it. So, people don't become too sovereign. But I think once you let the Trojan horse in, man, I think it's very, very difficult. Like once you start benefiting from number go up technology, it's crazy what it does. All of a sudden, it kind of like aligns incentives with everybody. And then the case study I always give to people is El Salvador, which is fascinating, right? So I don't think it's a coincidence that the first country that made Bitcoin legal tender, and I know you could say, oh, they walked it back a little bit, but you could still use Bitcoin as money in El Salvador. But it's not a coincidence the country that first made Bitcoin legal tender, therefore fixing the base layer of society, has literally the most popular president on the face of the planet. That's 96.
It's like one of the safest countries in the world right now. Like, I think it's safer. I saw a stat that El Salvador, by the metrics we use, is safer than every major city in America. Mind blowing, like absolutely mind blowing. And that aligned incentive piece, bang on.
And like, just, and to add to your point, right, Adam, you keep it widescreen, Opti. Smash the like button for Opti trolling Nico on air. By the way, we will be giving away Bitcoin later on today's show. You guys are going to want to stay tuned. So it's going to be awesome. But it, you know, and I'll be honest here, and I've been very quiet about this specific point. I get very frustrated when people call Nayib Bukele a dictator. Like, simultaneously while that's happening, like literally 2 countries above him, the Nicaraguan president was like, yeah, we're just going to discontinue elections altogether. So it's like, you're focusing on Bukele, but you're completely ignoring, you know, the whole region. And as someone whose parents are originally from Venezuela, it's like, you have no idea what you're talking about. If you're calling Bukele a dictator compared to the entire region, you have no idea what you're talking about. He's done wonders for El Salvador. I think he set an example, and looping this all back in together to get to my point, because I've taken a minute. El Salvador is really setting the standard for the regulatory environment that I think us Bitcoiners want, right? They're specifically being very hostile towards shitcoins. They have a whole regulatory body towards Bitcoin already. And I got to introduce the head of the regulatory agency for, you know, the Bitcoin industry in El Salvador. I got to introduce him at Plan B in January or February of this year. And the dude was wearing a tie with Bitcoin on it. Like, I mean, like, come on now, right? So like, El Salvador is already setting the standard for what this should be. Their Bitcoin treasury is completely public. It's audible. You can see it. It's on mempool.space. They have their own, you know, hosted version of it. You just got to follow in the footsteps of El Salvador. Like, they've already set the standard. Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But of course, the U.S. is a much bigger country, right? There's a lot of entrenched political interest. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I think too, the difference there is El Salvador is trying to jump into a position of power. The U.S. is trying to maintain a position of power from the you know, the grasp. Like, if I was looking at this, I'd say El Salvador is rock climbing up a mountain from the bottom, and the U.S. is like hanging on by some fingertips at the very, very top. And I think that the incentives behind these two, like look at the Clarity Act in and of itself. I wonder how many more people. So maybe more people own exposure to Bitcoin because of the Clarity Act, but do they own Bitcoin in self-custody because of the Clarity Act? Or do we get more like STRC, you know, paraphernalia, which is like, I think showing like the economic node is, I think, one that the average Bitcoiner discounts. You know, we have our nodes to be sovereign. We have our miners to be sovereign. But I don't know that we necessarily have, it's actually a 180 IQ. I don't know that we actually have, we don't understand the true implication of the economic node, which is like the Coinbase, the strategy, the people that actually hold the Bitcoin for the people. There's this, it's a black swan waiting to happen. And I really, really think that Canada is the testing ground to see how many black swans they can get away with.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's spot on, right? Because, you know, it kind of has like, you see the political forces that are going on in the world, right? And you see Europe kind of moving in lockstep, and it's all this idea of like, hey, you know, I know that they stopped the marketing because I think they realized how blatant it was. But like, if you think that the idea of you'll own nothing and be happy, if you think that they dropped that, like, you're living under a rock right now. They're in a, oh God, we pushed too hard. We got Orange Man in. Let's change our marketing tactics a little bit. And maybe perhaps we shouldn't be so blatant. And maybe perhaps, you know, the head of the WEF shouldn't be this scary German guy with this big accent that looks like Dr. Evil. I think we have a marketing problem, guys, but their goals haven't fundamentally changed. And to add to what Adam was saying. So I think they're just being a little bit more tactful about it, but in my belief is they have completely every intention to continue moving that forward, to create kind of like this surveillance state, right? Like, you see this in the United Kingdom, you see this in the European Union, you see semblances of that.
You see it in Canada.
You see that semblances of that in Canada. And they tried to pull this off in the United States with this previous election. And I don't think that those forces are ever going to go away. And I think that the reason that you see the European Union pushing back so hard on Bitcoin, and then in the United States, certain political parties here, is because they fundamentally understand that if Bitcoin exists and a central bank digital currency exists, I don't think those two can coexist, in my opinion. Adam, I would love to get your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they do. I think we're in a zero-sum economic game theory right now. And I worry that we are getting captured right in front of our eyes. Did the American globalists decide, hey, we can't beat this thing? How do we use it? Because keep in mind, Bitcoiners, individuals, you know, the fan of the individual owns Bitcoin because they want to hold more individual power. But that same power is not choosy. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter what you want. Doesn't matter your race, your religion, your political affiliation. When you hold Bitcoin, you are free. You are sovereign. Nobody can tell you what to do. But the same power that we yearn for as individuals is granted to governments, to organizations, to globalists, to demons when they hold Bitcoin. And that's a double-edged sword. And right now, there's a lot more Bitcoin sitting in the hands of the globalists or the globalist adjacent than there is in, or I shouldn't say than there is in the individuals. I think more individuals collectively hold Bitcoin than there is sitting in the hands of the globalists. But it's getting pretty freaking close. If you tally up Coinbase and Sailor, those two alone, we got a pretty big problem. And I really urge us to not get too excited about all of the different things that they're going to throw at us in order to make us part ways with our Bitcoin. You know, it's 60. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. It's 6102 in the making. You know, 6102 came about because they came at you with a baton. They said, hey, if you don't give us your gold, we're going to put you in jail for 10 years and we're going to charge you $250,000. Let me be clear. It was $10,000, but inflation adjusted, that was a $250,000 penalty in the same terms today. And so we have to look at history, understanding that they're willing to play tricks. They're willing to play games with us. And they're at least willing to give us a baton. Now, hey, we all know if someone comes to your house, the government especially, and says, give me your Bitcoin or I'm going to put you in jail, you say boating accident. You say it's already gone. You activate whatever.
Cold accident.
That's right.
Sorry. That was a bad joke. That was a bad joke. I'm sorry. Too soon.
Guys, before
wait, Nico, can I say something without you getting mad?
Don't be very careful.
I think America needs a Bitcoin dictator.
No, that's fine. That's okay.
Let's go.
That's acceptable. Anyways, guys, before we hit the break, I do want to talk about the Bitcoin wishing well. You guys know the deal. If you guys have been longtime viewers of the Bitcoin wishing well, every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn Bitcoin Well wishing points, and you could either redeem those points towards certain prizes, or you could toss your coin into a wishing well and you're going to win sats, right? You can win all the way up to 1 million sats, which is awesome. So we're going to be doing that live for you guys right now. Before we hit the break, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Let me share my screen. Here is the Bitcoin Wishing Well dashboard. So these are all the prizes you can win on Bitcoin Well, and you can win a orange Cybertruck if you have 69 million points. Oh God. Thank you, Chantel. I appreciate it. So I've been asking Chantel. I don't know, Adam, if you know about this, but I've been asking Chantel and Carl to send me 69 million points for the orange Cybertruck.
You must be buying a lot of Bitcoin.
And I'm gonna redeem that right now before Adam pulls the plug. Oh my God.
Thanks for the car. Now Nico doesn't have to buy me one.
Guys, we just won an orange Cybertruck on today's show.
Wait, Opti just won one.
Wait, hold on. I'm getting a call.
Uh-oh.
Hello? Wait, what do you mean you're at Tesla? Are you serious? Holy shit. Sophie has a Cybertruck. All right,
That was fast.
That's not even orange, bro. What the heck?
Yeah, what, dude? What you're fake marketing over here, dude? Fake news.
Adam, I'm sorry, Chantel and Carl, but looks like we won the Cybertruck.
We have to get it wrapped still for you, bro. But we appreciate everything you do. So enjoy the Cybertruck.
Thanks, man.
And just so everyone knows, I will actually personally deliver you a Cybertruck if you have 69 million points in your account. So, and it will be orange.
Hey, wait, before we go on, Adam, I do want to give you the numbers, the latest numbers I've seen on self-custody, how much coin has, or how much coin is in self-custody, was this, and it looks like it is about 45% of total Bitcoin supply that's circulating is in self-custody. So that is, and then
is that 15% lost? And
no, 45% in self-custody, 36% in exchanges and custodians, 13.9% in indirect exposure, and then I think about 4.4% to be mined, and what's this say? About 7% permanently lost. So we are kind of, yeah.
But yo, go back 5 years.
Yeah, it was like 60%. It was like 65. I think it was 65% 2 years ago.
So what that means is we're having freedom go down. And that's a huge problem. We have a freedom asset actively being captured before our eyes. We're going to look back in 10 years. Our kids are going to look back in 10 years. They're going to be like, they're going to watch this episode right here, as long as YouTube doesn't nuke it. And they're going to be like, hey, you guys called this. You guys showed that freedom was going down, that we had more Bitcoin or less Bitcoin in the hands of the individual. Why didn't you care about my individual rights and freedoms?
Yeah. Number go up as self-custody goes. I mean, freedom go down as self-custody goes down. I absolutely love that. That's 100% true. People are losing their minds on the Cybertruck. Guys, it was a joke, but if you do actually earn 69 million points on Bitcoin Well, you will get Adam will personally hand deliver to you an orange Cybertruck to your home. So
also, if we keep seeing these green candles, like it's just going to be Cybertrucks for everybody over at Bitcoin Well. We're just going to be
and one for me.
We have our own strategic Bitcoin reserve. Thank you very much. And we might just have to make it rain Cybertrucks.
Dude, wait, hold on. We can't be giving Elon all the Bitcoin, dude. You were just talking about it. Hold on. You were just talking about it, and here you are, dude. Maybe they got you, bro. They got you. This is how they win: is by you selling your Bitcoin for Cybertrucks, and then Elon adds it to the Tesla strategic reserves that he had, or Bitcoin Treasury.
Can't we just get a loan at Lyn? And
yes.
If you use the Simply referral code, you get 0.25% off your loan. No, but I do want to. Where's the Bitcoin treasuries? Because you're speaking about Elon, guys. Another thing you guys have to understand about Elon Musk is that SpaceX is the 8th largest Bitcoin treasury on planet Earth. People don't understand that. because
and just wait till Tesla and SpaceX merge. They'll be like number 3.
Dude, that's going to be out of hand.
They have, so SpaceX has 20,246 Bitcoin, and it's estimated that Tesla has like roughly like 10,000 or so. Anyways, guys, this is gonna be a fantastic show. We have tons to cover. You guys are going to stick around. We're going to be right back just after this quick break.
Here's the part that nobody says out loud. Buying Bitcoin on an exchange and leaving it there isn't buying Bitcoin. It's buying an IOU. And the last decade has been a masterclass in what happens when those exchanges don't deliver on their promises.
Bitcoin Well is a self-custody Bitcoin platform. That means that when you buy Bitcoin, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet. You actually own it from the very first transaction. They're available both in the United States and Canada. Pricing is transparent, straightforward, and no nonsense. And if you're buying a larger amount of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Well Infinite gives you concierge-level support through a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, premium help for when it actually matters.
You can also stack a little extra through the referral and wishing well rewards. A nice bonus on top of the owning your own Bitcoin thing. So go to bitcoinwell.com/simply and sign up for the Bitcoin Well portal today and buy Bitcoin you actually own. Paper burns, paper floods, paper fades. If your seed phrase is written on paper, it's not really backed up. It's waiting to disappear. Stampseed's DIY kit lets you hammer your seed words directly into commercial grade titanium. Fireproof, crush-proof, waterproof, and permanent. Once your words are in the metal, they aren't going anywhere. Use code SIMPLY at stampseed.com for 15% off anything in the store. That's stampseed.com, code SIMPLY. All right, guys, before we get to the numbers, we got to talk about what goes through your group messages, guys, in a normal week. Your locations, your pictures, your financial decisions. But do you trust the company operating the app not to dox all that info, not to dox your life? Well, that's why we like Keep. Gives you another option. Free messaging and video calling app built peer-to-peer, end-to-end encryption, and of course, no centralized company database holding all of your conversations. It doesn't track metadata, and you don't need to provide a phone number or an email to join. Create a group, share your share your files and photos, use it as a Google Drive, make audio and video calls, all without not leaking any of your information. So visit keet.io/simplybitcoin. That's Keet, KEET.io/simplybitcoin. Download it today and add your favorite person to the group chat. The person that you like to
it's peer-to-peer.
It's peer-to-peer. Yeah.
So
that's what I was saying.
Is known as like the most private chat, but it's not peer-to-peer. It still has to go to the Signal server. Of course, you have to, they go out and they say it's encrypted and all that stuff. The whole point of Keet is that it's peer-to-peer communication, peer-to-peer money, peer-to-peer communication. It's beautiful. Again, go to keet.io/simplybitcoin. Anyways, at the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $72,730. Decline from all-time high. Let's effing go. We're only down 42%. So you get a 42% discount if you're buying Bitcoin right now on Bitcoin Well. Market cap 1.46 trillion. Block height 963,332. Blocks to have. We got to take those out.
I had them there just for trolls, Anyways, I had them there just because like Nico has all of these, so I'm like, all right, let me just like put some things there.
Side note, I just got the confirmed shipping info for Cybertruck email from Bitcoin Well. So
nice. All right, guys. So we're all wondering, we've all been talking. Maybe we can troll Nico a little bit here.
Hey, Chantel, don't tell Adam. Here is my address.
Okay. Yeah. Don't leak the address to Adam. Okay. We watched the price hit 72. As I was telling you yesterday, it's very interesting what we're seeing. We could have had a pullback. There still might be one more pullback if you're looking at a comparison, a fractal to the 2022 bear market. But there was a clip going around this morning of Lyn Alden on CNBC talking about what she's seeing. So I think that's a good way to set this conversation up. So we'll be right back.
So what does all of this mean for Bitcoin and the move higher we saw, the violent move higher we saw yesterday amid forced liquidation and a short squeeze?
Yeah, so Bitcoin, I mean, the sentiment's been very low. The fast money has long since moved out toward AI names. And as we saw, I mean, even a fairly small move in price and in Bitcoin terms caused kind of record liquidations, which shows just how bearish the sentiment and positioning was. I think that, while this could be another false breakout. I mean, May, we saw higher numbers and we rolled back over to slightly lower lows than we saw in February. So I don't think Bitcoin's out of the woods yet, but I do think that by almost every metric, Bitcoin is near the low end of its valuation and sentiment range. Fast money's washed out. Strategy already kind of recapitalized its dollar position, so it kind of took that overhang of potential kind of further selling off the market for a while. There's really not a lot of downside catalysts for Bitcoin left. And even relatively small upside gains at this point can attract new types of buyers. Once people see that the chart doesn't look bad anymore, you can get technical traders coming back in. If you get further momentum, say months from now, you could get more momentum traders back in. So I think, with a multi-year time frame, Bitcoin is positioned here, both just fundamentally from where money is gone, but also from the dynamics we just talked about, basically that they're going to do some version of financial repression between the Treasury and the Fed, potentially alternating. And the ultimate beneficiary of that is hard assets that are underowned.
In terms of what could trigger some of those upside gains, at least in the nearer term or maybe even in the longer term for Bitcoin, I mean, should we be talking about the reemergence here then of, say, a debasement trade, especially when you see gold, for example, now surpassing U.S. Treasuries as the world's largest central bank reserve asset?
I think long term, yeah. I think some of these trades got ahead of themselves. I mean, last year, gold had that 2-year very strong run that culminated at over 5,000. Bitcoin briefly got over 125,000. Strategy was trading at 3 times its net asset value. And so things were heated. And I think that the correction was warranted across a number of these assets. But I think the long-term story remains in place that, when a country gets this indebted, there's various techniques to basically gradually try to inflate away the bonds. That currency itself is generally what takes the hit. And if you own scarce assets, whether it's high-quality equities or hard monies in this case, as long as they are not too over-owned or overbought at the time, they tend to be beneficiaries. And right now, I think Bitcoin's kind of near the bottom end of its cyclical range, which I think looking back 2-3 years from now will be seen as having been a good buying opportunity.
All right, I got to start this with a simple question, Nico. How you feeling about that 30K call?
I stick to it, man. Like, I think that, the only thing that didn't break in the previous cycle, and I called it in October. I said the cycle's over. I think the only thing that didn't break was the 4-year cycle theory. So, if that theory still holds, we should be bottoming out near October. Now, Lyn said it on TV, and I want to comment on Lyn being on TV on CNBC as well, because I think we're in this weird intersection in media right now, which is really fascinating to see it play out. But she said it herself. It's like, look, like Bitcoin's not out of the woods yet, to quote her, right? So, I think that it could be a possibility that we do go lower. I don't see 30K. I could see like 50 or 45 potentially. But this has played out like every single other previous cycle in Bitcoin's history. And that's undebatable at this point, right? I did say, and I'll stick to this. I said that if we can make it over the summer and range between the 60 and 80K range, I think that, the worst could be past us. I did say that multiple times. So it's really awesome to see that Bitcoin's at $72,400, but then the bigger or $49. But the big question is, was the catalyst of this recent price movement due to the announcements by Bessent and Trump yesterday, or was this something that Bitcoin was going to do anyhow? And I don't think anybody has the answer to that question. Another quick observation on Lyn being on primetime legacy media is, like, guys, right now we live in this weird moment in internet and media where if you build a big enough presence on social media, you know, whether it's for finance, whether it's for Bitcoin, you will get featured on traditional media. That wasn't the case 10 years ago. And I suspect that will continue to accelerate as more and more social media, or new media, as I like to call it, takes more of the mind share of people, because it's a really interesting phenomenon. I remember meeting Lyn in the early days when she had like 100,000 followers on her Twitter account. And now she has 1 million followers and she's on primetime. Like, that's fascinating, right? You have Anthony Pompliano, you see Natalie Burnell join all the time. And I remember when they were starting, it was just like humble podcasts. I also think that another thing that you guys are going to witness, I think, in the next couple of years is, I remember seeing and again, this is because I've been making videos for so long at this point, but all the Kairos and all the things that they were using in the studio and all those things, those are all things that people can do as well. Right? Those aren't things that no longer legacy media has this monopoly on. I suspect more and more of new media is going to be able to match the production of legacy media, even overtake it at some points or the other. And I think you already kind of see this with Mr. Beast a little bit. So that was very interesting to see Lyn Alden, right, on primetime legacy financial media and see how far she's come, right? That's very, very interesting to witness that.
Yeah, no, I was going to say something similar. Besides just commenting on the bottom price action, or like the bottom conversation, like, kudos to CNBC. Like, that was pretty good signal to see on just like financial news.
Other than her clicking the pen while Lyn was talking.
I know, right?
But
yeah, anyways, on that note, let's Adam. I know you always say the same thing. Price doesn't matter, but where let's vibe check you. Where are you at right now? How are you feeling with this little price action movement?
Yeah, dude, green candles are better than red because it makes Bitcoin well number go up too. Honestly, it's like, I was talking to the team this morning and they said the phone started ringing at 7 a.m. People finally ready to buy. Let me give you guys some insight here. We just released our numbers, our Q2 numbers, I think, a few weeks ago. And it's like, our user base, the amount of customers we serve, is up 50% year over year. And our revenue is like flat or down in some segments. And it's like, the question we ask all the time, how do we impact the customers? How do we impact our revenues? Which the only way we make revenue is by buying Bitcoin, or by people buying and selling Bitcoin. Like, we don't, you look at every other exchange on the planet, not every other exchange on the planet, but all of them in the USA, they make money because you give them your Bitcoin. They make money because you give them their cash. We don't have any of those tricks. We just make money when you transact, because we're just self-custody. We're a simple business. But the number one problem we have is that when the price is flat or down, that old meme of like Bitcoin at 150K and Bitcoin at 50K with the lineups, is just that nobody wants to transact. So, today, green candles, phone lines are all cooked. People are buying Bitcoin, and that makes me very happy, because I get to give Cybertrucks to people, I guess.
I love that. I love that, man. Yeah. Number go up is good for everyone. And I think, what's really interesting about this previous cycle, and I think, and I've said this publicly on Twitter, right? By far, since I got in, Adam got in, he's class of 2013, but since I got in, which is class of 2016, from a vibes perspective, this has been the worst bear market I have ever experienced by a large margin. Taking out the volatility aside, I've experienced 80% drawdowns. Right now, this year, vibe-wise, it's been absolutely atrocious, which in my perspective, right, that actually sets the stage for when the price runs up for a potential euphoric blow off top, because we haven't had one since 2021, guys. Like, you guys have to understand that, right? So, like, essentially, you waited since 2021, you waited to 2025, and you were like, oh my God, so, this Bitcoin's going to have the blow off top. It never came, right? It never came. And I think that disillusioned a whole lot of people. I've been having conversations even with OG Bitcoiners, and they literally give me a call, and they're like, Nico, is it over? Is it done? And I'm like, I am so happy you're telling me that. Even my team, I'm not gonna.
You say that to us too, though.
Even my team was like, guys, like
We were also trolling you.
Like should I don't know. You were pretty serious. So
no, we were trolling.
So I was like, should we buy the S&P, bro? Like, you know, like yo,
that was you that said that.
Sandisk 50x in a year, bro.
You're LARPing so hard right now. You're saying we were saying buy S&P. You said that literally on Tuesday.
Yeah, but that was in response. That was in response to whatever you were talking about, bro.
So we're trolling, dude.
But anyways, I've had very serious conversations with OG Bitcoiners, with my wife, like with our team here at Simply, where it's basically like, look, like, is it over? Is it done? Like, is Bitcoin's upside, over? And I'll put that question to Adam, right? Like, because I'm sure you're experiencing that as well, right? Like, this has like been from a vibes perspective, from an enthusiasm perspective, this particular cycle has been horrible, has been catastrophic in my opinion.
So that sentiment you're feeling, I've got a story about when I felt this in 2014, maybe 2015. And it was, we just had the blow off top of $1,000 Bitcoin. And then Mt. Gox did what all custodian exchanges do. And they stole coins and blew up or got hacked or one of them. And all the coin, and then Bitcoin price dropped to 80% drawbacks basically. I'll never forget, $243. I was sitting with my only other Bitcoin friend in Edmonton. And we were just sitting there like, maybe this is all it's worth. Maybe Bitcoin is just worth $243. It was just sideways for months. And then of course, we know 2016, things started to move. And then of course, 2017, boom. We saw 20, 25K in Canada. Not sure what it made to in the US. And so those feelings you're feeling, the difference was, the reason I would say this one was worse, this bear market was worse than the 2013 is because I had no expectations. The world had no expectations. No one was waiting for a blow off top. We all knew Bitcoin had this intrinsic value, this potential, this economic logic that the world seems to like. And we figured Bitcoin was valuable, but we didn't have the proof yet. And so the reason it's worse right now is because we know we're right. All logic points to Bitcoin being the most valuable asset on the planet. And to see it, worth a meaningless percentage of the total global economic productivity is insulting. And the fact that we've seen a blow off top, the fact that we know how the cycle works, or at least we thought and we think we know how the cycle works, that is what makes this feel so terrible, is that we are all expecting it. And it's funny because that October date, I don't know if we're all just talking in the same circles, but like October seems to be the collective, this is when Bitcoin is going to moon. And, Bitcoin has a funny way of doing things Bitcoin has a funny way of doing the thing you expect, but not at the time you expect. And I just can't help but wonder if we're just early. And here we are. So I saw some comments in the chat there about, is it time to be Bulltard? And I don't know, man, maybe we should just call Bulltard season and we should just get after it.
I've already been doing that. I've already been doing that.
Opti and Walker have been giving me.
I've been Bulltarded for over 2 years, and I've been wrong for most of the time, but I'm going to be right at one point.
Let's go.
Guys,
clock is right twice a day, baby.
Yeah. Exactly. Guys, we still have so much.
Wait. Well, last thing I do want to say in terms of bottom, what I found interesting this morning is, obviously we have no idea where we are right now. I think the best thing that Lyn Alden says is like, we are seemingly kind of coming out of the woods, but we don't know exactly.
I would say, dude,
hold on,
we're near bottom.
No, obviously, like without a doubt. But there is an interesting kind of like, I don't want to call it a fractal, but we all know the meme, history doesn't repeat, it often rhymes. And the most interesting kind of connection that I saw is if you look at the chart and you look at towards the end of 2022, when it did finally like get that leg up, and the bottom was finally set, it is looking very similar to where we are right now. But with that being said, it pumped up a little bit. It pulled back very quickly, and then it really started ripping. I think that's the most interesting fractal or like comparison that I saw, is like we are at the end or the bottom of the bear market, but exactly like where are we going to pull back? Because there will be a correction. So guys, do a little chart boying. Just go look at the price. Go to like Bitstamp or whatever your favorite trading view of Bitcoin is. and do it on the daily chart and go back to the end of 2022. It is looking very similar to where we are right now in 2026. And to me, that might be the most compelling case of where we like officially stand here. And it does kind of add to what Adam said, that like it might be happening sooner than we think. So that's kind of my take on where we are.
No, I would agree with that. Guys, we're going to be right back just after this quick break, and then we're going to dive deep into the culture. We're going to be giving away some sats from Bitcoin Well, so you guys are going to want to stay tuned. It's going to be fantastic. We are going to be right back in just a little bit. I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy across 3 continents, HIVE runs dual engines, Bitcoin mining and AI compute. Their AI platform is ranked #1 in the world for network performance, and it's doing something bigger than compute. It's accelerating human discovery, the science, the breakthroughs, pushing humanity further and faster. Listed on the NASDAQ with the ticker HIVE. Catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech on X or hivedigitaltech.com.
Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, cell towers can fail. Hurricanes, cyber attacks, blackouts, most people go dark. Satellite phones don't rely on local infrastructure. With Iridium, 77 satellites in orbit, you can stay connected across the U.S., even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123 also has Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags for your hardware wallets, and everything you need to build your own off-grid Bitcoin citadel. Go to sat123.com/simply and use promo code simply for 15% off anything in the store.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. Ledin fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash. And they just introduced their lowest rates ever. No complexity, no fine print. The larger the loan, the lower the rate. These new rates apply to all new loans, refinances, and renewals. You'll see all the rates up front before you apply. The new, lower rates come with Ledin's gold standard protection. Your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. Perfect 8-year track record of keeping clients' assets safe. Auto top-ups, LTV alerts, and partial repayments to keep you in control. Repay whenever you want with 0 penalties or monthly payments. Ledin's perfect $10 billion track record through every market cycle in the last 8 years speaks for itself. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Get both at Ledin. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, BitKey. If you own Bitcoin, the next question is how you actually protect it. BitKey takes a different approach to self-custody. It uses a 2 of 3 setup with keys split between your phone, your BitKey hardware wallet device, and block servers. You only need 2 keys to authorize a transaction. So losing one doesn't mean losing your Bitcoin. And Block only has 1 key, so they can't move your Bitcoin on their own. There's also no seed phrase to write down. Hide somewhere and hope nobody ever finds it. Recovery is built in, so if you lose your phone, replace a device, or something happens years down the road, you have a path back to your Bitcoin. And the BitKey hardware wallet now lets you verify what you're actually signing directly on the screen. So instead of blindly trusting an address, you can confirm the real destination on BitKey itself. It's self-custody designed around what actually happens in real life, from lost devices and mistakes to long-term ownership and inheritance. Get yourself a BitKey today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off your new BitKey. All right, everybody, we are back. I gotta get my own air horn. We're here with Adam O'Brien, founder and CEO of Bitcoin Well, and we're gonna be giving away some sats, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Using
what? All right, do the. No, I was just gonna say, do the Bitcoin Well plug you do, but while you're doing it, me and Adam will talk.
All
so
right,
you can just Oh, are you gonna do the Bitcoin Well thing?
I'm waiting for the code.
Okay. All right. Well, Adam, before we go on, there was a comment earlier that you said to highlight in the private chat here. So let me pull this up and try to read it. So at Jose Rizzo 1, I don't know the context of this, but maybe you still remember. What happens when the deep state decides to shut down / lock out the platform? Was he talking about Bitcoin well?
I don't know. So this is what I wanted to talk about, is that there's two key things that are misunderstood about Bitcoin and consequently Bitcoin well, in that Bitcoin currently runs on the internet, but we have seen examples around the world where Bitcoin can be transacted without the internet. Bitcoin is the only commodity, economic tool, activity that doesn't require internet to be scalable. And I think that's such an important thing to highlight. Also, the opportunity for sovereign internet, I think it has to be soon. Internet centralization is a big problem, but it feels like we're coming up on an age where we've got we've got sovereign power, we've got sovereign energy, we've got sovereign money. Sovereign internet access is going to be the next step, and whoever solves that problem, if it's Elon or someone else, it's going to be beneficial. But then the next point that I wanted to highlight is, if somebody came and shut down Bitcoin well right now, if we unplugged every single server at Bitcoin well, nobody would be able to transact, but everybody would have their Bitcoin. And I think that key difference, ask yourself, what happens? All of the best proof of reserves in the world, if that server goes down, you don't have access to your Bitcoin. And I think that it's such an important piece to remember in what are you exposing yourself to? You know, we should do a few more coin tosses until we get a good one. 210 sats is good, but we should do some serious.
Pull out your lightning wallet.
If you scan the QR code on your screen, you will get 210 sats. We did
keep it there for a second.
Oh, someone scanned it.
There you go.
Boom, boom, boom. All right, let's do it again.
I think it's important to remember that when you leave your coins on an exchange, even if you think they are safe on the exchange, the rules, the context, everything, you're adding so many more variables to your Bitcoin journey that I just think is unnecessary. You know, back in the day, with traditional assets, we had a problem where it was very difficult, expensive, and you didn't have access to the same tools to store your own wealth, right? Holding gold was worse in your house than in a big fancy vault, armed by lasers and titanium steel walls. No reasonable person was going to store their gold in their house that way. But this cold card attack is a very, this is a great example. It's like, what do you think the counterparties, your custodian, your exchange, your proof of reserves, what do you think is holding their Bitcoin? And it could have been any number. Like, if self-custody fails, custodianship also fails because they just self-custody your coins. And I think that we discount that opportunity. There's no extra brain power needed, no extra knowledge needed. Self-custody is the root of why Bitcoin is so important. And it frustrates me to no end when we discount self-custody in the name of, some mental gymnastics, proof of reserves, oh, no one cares about that, etc. It's like, we cannot lose the plot, and your proof of reserves are meaningless when the attacks on Bitcoin start to happen.
Absolutely. And just to add to Adam's point, right? Like, one of the things that broke my heart, and by the way, guys, for context, for the new Simply Bitcoin viewers, we were playing the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest live on air. All you got to do is you pull up your Lightning wallet to redeem the free sats, which you guys have been doing. Again, every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn these points, and you could either redeem those points towards these awesome prizes, the top prize being the orange Cybertruck. But again, you can get the price of tomorrow, the Bitcoin Standard, Broken Money, Bitcoin Well Seed Plate, Freedom Maxi shirts. I really love the design. A Blockstream Jade, a BitKey, a Blockstream Jade Plus link. So the Chroma glasses that Adam wears all the time. Again, you can redeem those points towards these gifts, or you can toss a coin into the Wishing Well, and you can win up to 1 million Satoshis, and it has all the odds here for you guys to look at. So we're going to keep doing this while we continue the conversation. But as Adam was saying, yes, ultimately, right, like, Bitcoin does, separate money from state. That's really why we're here. That was the mission. And I think that mission got lost on a lot of people this particular cycle with the inclusion of the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF, right? For the first time in Bitcoin's history, what tends to happen every single cycle is the amount of Bitcoin wallets actually go up. This cycle, that they actually went down. So less people are actually taking self-custody. This is confirmed. This is why the cold card hack was so tragic, because everybody that did everything right, the Bitcoiners that heard, stay humble, stack sats, send your Bitcoin into self-custody, you're going to be fine. Unfortunately, every single cycle, there's this exchange or there's this company that blows up. Unfortunately, this cycle, it was what the market determined was the gold standard of Bitcoin self-custody. So I said it the day that it happened. I said that July 30th will be the day that will forever live in self-custody or Bitcoin infamy. And I think that unfortunately, we were kind of part of this, right? We were pushing so many people to take Bitcoin into self-custody, but now it's evolved, right? I think that if you hold a substantial amount of Bitcoin, which is most of the Bitcoiners, guys, like the influencers, they're already doing this, by the way. You have to look into multisig, right? And if you don't want to do sovereign multisig, there's awesome companies that, kind of hold your hand through this, like Casa, Unchained. I recommend them. Or you can get the BitKey device that has multisig built in. But again, if you're holding a substantial amount of Bitcoin, I recommend multi-vendor, multi-sig. Single sig is good, but you got to be very confident of that entropy that was used to create that seed. And then look into passphrases, right? So self-custody isn't dead. Self-custody is just evolved. This is going to be stronger, once we get over this. This is why that week that happened, we went away from our usual scheduled programming of talking about the news, and we literally brought every single expert possible from the industry. So you guys could look at all the options you have, whether it's Unchained, whether it's Casa, whether it's Foundation, Passport. We had Trezor on the show. So again, there's so many different options that you guys could use. But remember, with great responsibility comes great power. You can mess up, right? So there is no 1-800 number to call. But again, that gives you a tremendous amount of power for you as an individual, right? Reclaiming back your financial sovereignty. And I agree with Adam's thesis. I think what's going to happen over the next couple of years, as we saw the disintermediation of information and state, it was a very fascinating phenomenon that we witnessed. And it was around the pandemic era, right? Where you saw these very well-known Harvard-educated people going on Twitter and basically saying, wait a second, I don't agree with the narrative that's being talked about, specifically about how you should react to the pandemic as an individual. And you know what happened to them? They got deplatformed. Yeah. And then what happened? Elon bought X. And then all of a sudden, guess what happened? Information got disintermediated in a way. Less and less people by the day get their information from legacy media. More and more people are getting their information from millions of content creators all around the world. And that is what I call the disintermediation of information and state. The next phase that I believe we're heading towards is the disintermediation of money and state. And look at how they reacted to just information getting disintermediated. Even in the United States of America, where literally you are protected by the First Amendment of the country. When the X files got released, when the Twitter files got released, when Elon bought X, literally it was on record that the US government was asking social media companies to censor the free speech of Americans. So if you look at the historical examples, you don't think, and this is what Adam was talking about, you don't think that when 10%, 15%, 20% of the population, to use Larry Fink's own words, starts adopting a non-sovereign alternative as money, you don't think those same tools are going to potentially be used against Bitcoiners to say, hey, listen, you can keep your dollar. I like my Bitcoin. I like it in my self-custody, right? I don't have to care about politics anymore. It's great. You don't think that's going to happen? Right? Of course it's going to happen. Like it's an inevitability. It's not something to be like, oh, okay, like, this could happen. This might not happen. Right? like, I think it's inevitable, in my opinion. Adam, I don't know if you want to add to that, man, but it's been fascinating to see, or better say, it's been an honor and a privilege and fascinating to be alive during these really, really interesting times in human history.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're shaping the economic future that our grandkids are going to have. I mean, what do we, back on my shirt right now, stack sats for your last name, right? I think Opti, you guys say that all the time. Like, we buy Bitcoin because we believe in and care about generational wealth. And we have this insanely important role to play, not only to protect our wealth, but we are actively shaping the future of what sovereign economic activity can look like. And in the same way that our parents actively shaped the way the internet works, you know, did they get it right or wrong? I don't know. The internet's relatively decentralized, but it is, you know, also captured in a certain way. And we run the risk of having that same thing, that same reality come to the Bitcoin ecosystem. And we absolutely need to be diligent. We need to be supporting and utilizing the companies and platforms and products that are building the future you want to see. If you want all of the Bitcoin held in Michael Saylor's cold card, so you can earn 8%, then buy STRC. You know, if you don't, then you should probably forego the dividend. I had this great conversation with
Ooh.
Whoa.
Oh, there we go.
A big kahuna.
Let's go.
If you scan the QR code, you get 15,000 sats, ladies and gentlemen. First come, first serve.
Dang. That's so.
Wait, take this off the screen real quick. I'm just playing.
Opti with the quick thumb.
Yeah. Hey, wait, hold on. I can do it. No. Sorry. Keep going, Adam. Keep going.
I had this conversation with Jimmy Song. We were talking about the morality of debt in a biblical sense, and I asked him. I was like, "How can we possibly ignore the economic activity, the economic privilege, the economic prosperity that debt provides?" And his answer was so profound. He said, "If your only goal is personal prosperity, then you can't ignore it. But if your goal is bigger than that, then we need to look at the full picture." And that hit me so big. And I would have that same thing, you know, everyone talking about all the different ways that you can benefit by holding Bitcoin adjacent or non-Bitcoin assets. And it's like, if your only goal is personal economic prosperity, then yeah, you should do that. But if your goal is bigger than just economic prosperity for yourself, if your goal is, you know, like generational prosperity, if your goal is freedom, you know, ask someone in Venezuela how much they would trust a state-sponsored, you know, token. and we just, it's going to come. There's going to be a day when the Bitcoin you think you own, you realize they are not yours. And I really, really hope that we have rang the bell loud and long enough that my friends and family and our customers don't lose it because they bought some proof of reserves lie, or they bought some custodian lie, or they bought some, you know, simplicity lie. So that's my plea for today is please, 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 please think about your great granddaughter and buy Bitcoin in self-custody.
Yeah. And I love the philosophical talk. And forgive me if I'm kind of pulling back the conversation on, you know, obviously Bitcoin Well is a self-custody by default platform. So like, what was that morning for you like? Or I guess it was afternoon on the cold card exploit. You know, I'm sure that was a crazy moment for you. And obviously, as you can tell, like our fundamental philosophy about self-custody hasn't changed, but was there like a moment where you were like, oh, wait, hold on, you know, maybe I need to move a little different going forward in how I talk about self-custody?
Yeah, to an extent. So personally, I felt very lucky because I learned how to make a Bitcoin wallet with Dice. When I learned how to make a Bitcoin wallet, it was a paper wallet, rolling your entropy. I was reading articles and talking to people that, you know, not your entropy, not your coins. And so I felt incredibly lucky that I was protected by protected by the dice. And what I realized was that because I took the actions 10 years prior, 12 years prior, because I learned the right way up front, I was protected a decade later. And it made me really triggered in my head, like, we need to do the right thing today so that in a decade we are still protected. Nothing failed here. Bitcoin didn't fail. Self-custody didn't fail. We had a single vendor put in brutal bug into their code base. Nobody verified it. And here we are. We had a single point of failure exploited. And that will happen time and time and time again. If you have single point of failure in your stack, identify it. You should go through you should go diligently. What is single point of failure? We watched last week, Trezor, their single point of failure was their shipping company. Like, we don't understand how many points of failures there are in our stack. And we have to identify all of them. There is no such thing as removing all single points of failures. All you can do is identify them and then put yourself in a position to feel comfortable with the ones that you have. And like, I was tweeting about this. I send, with the mailing address stuff, I send all my mail to a UPS store. My mailing address is not on anything except for DoorDash, because, you got to get those chicken wings delivered when you're hungry.
Nika knows all about that.
Let's go. But it's like, I've removed the single point of failure because, I just, early on, I had weird things happen at my house, and I was like, nah, enough of this. Like, I'm getting my address off of things. If you use one button to simulate 100 dice rolls, there's your single point of failure. You should probably investigate that. And so back to your question, Opti, how do we talk about things? It made me realize we need to build the right tools the right way, and then in order to protect people down the road. And I think we need to educate. We need to continue educating. We need to continue pushing the conversation away from yield, away from number go up, away from economic prosperity, and into prosperity as a whole, into freedom as a whole, into generational wealth as a whole. Everyone holding STRC, I hate to tell you this, your grandkids are cooked because you did not buy Bitcoin. Like, straight up, STRC will be captured tenfold in 100 years when you're having great grandkids. And it's like, that's just the reality. Like show me a yield that was around 100 years ago that is still thriving today. It does not exist. Our financial cycles are getting shorter. We're getting compressed as the spiral of the dollar collapse, of the fiat collapse continues. Like, look at the bailouts that happened. We had like 1913, then we had 1940, then we had 1970, then we had 2000, or 99. And then we had 2008, and then we had 2021. Like, these cycles are compressing. We're going to be in like print city every 12 months here right away. Show me a yield product that works, over a century. You cannot find one. And so I just urge people to think about the future, because when we don't, fiat, that's the whole problem with fiat, is that it shrinks our time horizon. It shrinks our time span, and we get greedy. We get lost in this cyclone of high time preference, and Bitcoin is trying to eliminate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Bitcoin's the only tool, right?
Yeah.
I would say like Bitcoin and maybe like physical gold, but you have limitations with physical gold, right? Like, I think those are the only two tools that you really have as an individual to really achieve sovereignty. And even with gold, right? They find more gold every single day in the ground, right? There's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin ever.
Dude, and we watched, like, history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. We watched them cover up the diamond supply for how many decades? Like, we have no clue. Bitcoin is the only known finite commodity in the world. At this point, it looks like oil is renewable. And so we have no clue how much gold there is going to be. Elon's talking about, what he's talking about, space rocks, gold getting beamed into Earth, bigger than doubling the Earth's gold supply. Like, we have no clue. But we do, to your point, we know how much Bitcoin there will be. We can see down to the Satoshi. I mean, Opti brought up very specific stats as to how much Bitcoin is held and where. And you cannot do that with we don't even know how much gold's in Fort Knox. You know, audit the Knox, baby. Like, where is this? But to your point, El Salvador, we can see it on mempool. We can see it on the blockchain. We can see it in our node, and there's nothing like it. And we are so quick to give that up, all in the name of a monthly, you know, few $100s per month. Yeah, crushes my heart.
Yeah, and that's why, you know, like, again, the day of infamy, July 30th, was so tragic, in my opinion. I call it, and people were confused when I said this, but I was like, this has been the worst day for the Bitcoin movement that I can remember. And people are like, what are you talking about, Bitcoin movement? I'm like, self-custody is the Bitcoin movement, dude.
Yeah.
And, you know, self-custody is a revolution. Self-custody is how we change things, right? As we individuals, like, we have to remember this is a grassroots movement. And that day was so tragic. 22,000 coins were moved back to custodians when that day happened, right? What percentage of those are going to stay at custodians? And then what percentage of those are going to go back into self-custody? That's the mission we have laid out in front of us. You know, we've been in worse places before in Bitcoin, so I'm not really worried. But yeah, we can't make self-custody this fringe thing, because if it becomes a fringe thing, then we become an easy target, you know, per se, right? Like the very idea of, you know, taking custody of your coins comes radical, right? And, you know, again, July 30th, I think, was a step back. But the good news is that self-custody is going to be better than ever after that. Entrepreneurs are going to be solving that. Again, the BitKey device is fantastic, has multi-sig built in. The collaborative custody companies like Casa, Unchained, fantastic solutions for you guys to look into. And then, as Adam pointed out, whether it's the hardware wallet or whether it's these collaborative custody providers, it removes that single point of failure. I think I said that on that week's programming, like at least 50 times per show. It's the single point of failure. If you're putting your life savings on a $100 or $200 device, right, that is a single point of failure, right? That's by definition a single point of failure. The awesome part about multi-sig is that, again, even if one of those keys are compromised, right, and a 2 of 3 multi-sig, your coin isn't going to go anywhere. I knew plenty of people. I spent the week, and this isn't even what I do, but I literally spent the week helping people migrate. And most of the people that I knew were essentially migrating, that were affected by this. They were essentially migrating their collaborative custodies because they used 2 cold cards. But the attackers, from my understanding, were never able to, you know, compromise any of those people's keys, right? Even
because you had to know those 2 keys were linked.
Yep.
And that's the cool thing about multi-sig, is that even if all the seeds were compromised, the missing piece was if you have 100 compromised seeds, you need to know which 3 work together. And granted, that can be brute forced, right? It certainly is possible, but it adds that layer of complexity that makes your coins less attractive to steal than somebody else's. I had this conversation. I was putting like security film on my windows, and I was like, how does this little piece of plastic like prevent anyone from coming in here? This is dumb. Like, glass is way stronger than this. And the guy's like, yes, but when they hit it with a baseball bat, something unexpected happens. And so they don't go into your house because they move on to the next one. And I think that's how we have to take our approach to Bitcoin. It's like, make your stack harder to steal. It's like when you're getting chased by a bear. You don't have to be faster than the bear. You just can't be the slowest guy. And it's like, don't make your stack the slowest guy, right? Make your stack harder to steal than somebody else's. And employing multi-sig, multi-vendor multi-sig is even better. Just get rid of that single point of failure.
Absolutely. And by the way, guys, and again, I take a little bit of blame for this, because we were pushing self-custody so hard, but we were not advocating for if I owned Bitcoin, I don't own any Bitcoin, but what we are not advocating for what if you see any of the Bitcoin influencers online, if you see any of the big names online, guys, you have to understand, even the exchanges, right? They are using multi-sig by default, right? And of course, there's more complexities to the hardware they're using, et cetera, but it doesn't remove it. That's what they're using. They're using 2 of 3 or maybe 3 of 5 and maybe more than that, right? But there's really 2 of 3 or 3 of 5. That's what most Bitcoin influencers, that's what most exchanges, that's what they're using, right? So if you have your life savings into something, remove that single point of failure and look into multi-sig. And I think this is where a lot of us got a little bit carried away because we were just pushing people so hard into self-custody. In a way, a lot of us were successful in doing that, but we forgot to advocate for what we were doing ourselves, right? Which is multi-sig by default, especially if you're holding a considerable amount of Bitcoin. You should be doing that. It's just, there's Liana, there's the open source model. We had the guy from, not my name, but BitVault, as in VAULT, on the show the other day, and he kind of has this like time lock solution to it, which is really neat. So there are these companies that do collaborative custody. You can be a total badass and just set up a sovereign multi-sig yourself. I don't recommend that unless you have the technical know-how, but look into multi-sig, especially if you're holding your life savings in Bitcoin for a long period of time. And if you set it up right, you know you're going to be able to sleep well at night. Like, you're good, right? So yeah, man, that's kind of like my final message of today's show. And of course, always an honor to have.
Wait, can I ask one last question?
Of course.
Adam, you've been in Bitcoin for a very long time, longer than most of my friends by a significant amount. And so, like, just the final question, again, I feel like I'm just pivoting the conversation away from what we've been talking about the whole time, but just a general view here from a, 13-year veteran, how is your feeling right now of where Bitcoin's at, where Bitcoin's future is going? Because obviously, as we mentioned earlier, this last year, and in particular the last month, there's been the, BIP 110 civil war. There's been the cold card exploit. The price hasn't been that good. As someone that's been around for a very long time, tell the chat, because I know a lot of the people that hang out on this show, I see their comments and they're like 2024 Bitcoiners, even 2021 Bitcoiners. So, like, from your vantage point, again, someone that's been around for a while, like, how are you feeling now versus, where you were in the beginning? And what is your view on the future of Bitcoin? Obviously, if it works out in the way that we see it working out, like, drop some wisdom for the newer Bitcoiners out there.
Yeah, man, I've never been more uncertain, but in a good way, about what the future of Bitcoin holds. This reminds me back to 2016, 2017, where at that point in my Bitcoin journey, Bitcoin had legs, but it then proceeded to reach new levels that I thought not possible. And I have that same gut feeling right now that Bitcoin is very, very good at surprising us. Bitcoin is very, very good at helping us understand what the world values. And right now, the world looks to be valuing short-term gains over long-term prosperity. And if you think that trend will continue, then I think you should be worried about the state of Bitcoin. However, if you think that the world will value things that are scarce, things that are free, freedom oriented, things that are liberating, things that are give power to the individual. If you think the individuals on Earth will value a tool that continues to give them liberation and individual rights and freedoms, then I think you should be very excited about Bitcoin, because unlike anything I've ever seen, now I'm not going to pretend that I've seen everything. I like to still think that I'm pretty young. Maybe I'm not super young, but compared to everything that I've seen, Bitcoin has the most spread out minds working separately towards the same goal. And if we know anything about physics, we know that battle testing an idea in a vacuum sucks, and Bitcoin has no vacuum. Bitcoin only has the open markets, and I think that's the important thing to remember, is that Bitcoin is decentralized, and decentralization means stronger and slower, and it tests our patience, it tests our humility, I've started a IRL stream, and I streamed yesterday for the first time. It was super fun. You can go follow me Twitch if you want, Adam O'Brien IRL. And I basically talked about how Bitcoin is a humbling tool. Bitcoin is a tool for humility. And that's been true in my life. I'm sure many people watching, that's been true in their lives. And we need to remember that the humility that we learn today will pay dividends for us, because I regret the non-humble decisions that I made, especially the ones that I made with my Bitcoin from 5, 6, 10 years ago. And the ones that as long as we maintain humility and we think that the future society will value freedom, I think we're going to be really happy with our decision to stay in Bitcoin.
Bars. And Adam, you reminded me of a Bible quote, and I know you're a very proud Christian here, and I don't know what verse it is, but to paraphrase it, something like, when two or more minds work toward a goal, like anything is possible. And it was like, yeah, I paraphrased. I don't know what the verse is, but it's in the Bible. Okay, it is actually a biblical quote here. But
yeah,
anyways,
man, I love that. I think we discount. It's like, how many aligned incentive industries actually exist? Most industries are captured. The climate industry is captured. The energy industry is captured. The AI industry is captured. Like, Bitcoin's the last one that isn't captured. And there are so many smart people working towards making Bitcoin viable for the mass market. And, every time we get a little bit of data that Bitcoin is not ready for the mass market, Bitcoin gets stronger. And that's where we are today.
Amen to that. All right, everybody, before we wrap up today's show, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor. Guys, go check out Ocean. Help decentralize Bitcoin mining. Take control of your Bitcoin mining and make more money. The industry's lowest fees and most transparent payouts. Point your miners today to mine.ocean.xyz:334. Check out their website, ocean.xyz. Again, they support, at this point, it doesn't really matter, does it?
No.
Yeah, but in case you're worried about the whole BIP 110 thing,
off the top rope, dude. Jeez.
They support both. So it gives you the freedom to choose whatever fork you decide to choose.
More important is the block templates, but
yeah, the block templates too. Again, guys, help decentralize Bitcoin mining. Ocean.xyz. I know that was something that people were asking about. And of course, go check out Adam O'Brien. Go give him a follow on X, and then go check out bitcoinwell.com/simply. Again, guys, buy Bitcoin using an automatic self-custody Bitcoin on-ramp. The only one that exists in the US of A right now is Bitcoin Well. Of course, they're available in Canada as well. And they're also publicly traded on the TSFXV. Did I say that right? I don't know. On the Canadian Stock Exchange. All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. Take care, everybody.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.